When you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
Unless you've been avoiding the internet the last 2 decades, you've probably seen or heard of this film somewhere. But what if I told you that one of the most ridiculous, over-the-top, and memeable comedies of the early 2000s was actually a profound meditation on purpose, faith, masculinity, and becoming?
Don't you want a little taste of the glory? See what it tastes like.
What if when we dug deeper behind the stretchy pants, beneath the mustache, the eagle egg smoothies, poorly tied lucha masks, and the cartwheeling Jack Black, there lied a quiet spiritual truth?
It's for fun.
A story about identity, purpose, love, failure, fear, and the search for meaning. Because Nacho Libre isn't just about a man who wants to wrestle, it's about a man who wants to be seen.
Listen, the people, they like you guys.
Not just by others, but by his religion, his community, and maybe most importantly, by himself.
It's easy to write off Nacho Libre as just another cult comedy classic. I did for years, but something about it stuck within my soul.
Maybe it's the absurd sincerity of Jack Black's performance, or maybe it's Jared Hess's deadpan, almost painterly cinematography and shot choices. Or maybe it's because Nacho Libre is actually a deeply human film.
One that asks, what does it mean to be a man of faith in a world that doesn't believe in you?
Let's get something straight. Nacho Libre isn't just funny. It's crafted, directed by someone who just got off the indie success of Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, you know, I really wanted to work with Jared Hess, the director, because I loved Napoleon Dynamite.
I recommend working with Jared if you want a really hilarious performance.
This movie carries his signature deadpan timing, wide-angle composition, muted color palettes, offbeat characters, and awkwardly beautiful frames.
But it goes beyond quirky. It's surprisingly painterly. The camera doesn't just chase action, it lingers on it, it watches it, almost meditates on it.
The cinematography, done by Xavier Grobert, feels like a religious art piece, mashed with a telenovela. You'll notice long static shots that let the comedy breathe, warm sun-drenched colors that evoke the Mexican countryside, and these slow zooms and close-ups, pure iconography. It's comedy shot like tragedy, and that's where the magic lies. Even the costume design, those absurd blue and red tights, make Nacho feel more like a folk hero or a living cartoon than a man.
It's stylized but never distant. It feels oddly sacred.
And the humor comes from these frozen, bizarrely beautiful scenes.
Get that corn out of my face!
Take a moment like Nacho staring longingly into the distance as synth music hums in the background. It's funny, but it's also oddly tragic.
Hess never forces the comedy, it emerges naturally from the stillness.
Did you not tell them that they were the Lord's sheep?
Tried to convert each other, but they got married instead.
Those guys were a couple of wussies, huh?
Shot in Oaxaca, Mexico, there's an earthy, sun-baked beauty to every frame. The monastery is dusty and handmade. The wrestling arenas are chaotic and gritty. There's a visual authenticity here, a love for the textures of the world, and even in the most ridiculous scenes, like a man getting hit in the face with a corn on the cob, it's filmed like it's mythic.
Believe it or not, Nacho Libre is actually loosely inspired by a real-life person, Fray Tormenta, a Mexican priest in 1976 who secretly started wrestling in lucha libre to help raise money for the orphanage he worked at and cared for.
Whatever he earned living his double life, he would use to take care of kids living in his orphanage. A provider for his family, a great example of being a man. And he had gotten the idea after watching the film El Señor Tormenta to start the wrestling. He used to wake up at 4 a.m. to train for Lucha Libre before going back to his church. The movie takes massive creative liberties, of course, but that kernel of truth gives it a surprising emotional center.
The absurdity is grounded in something nobile, a man willing to risk his reputation in order to provide for those he cares for and loves.
And I personally believe every great story has a small kernel of truth,
Grounded in reality.
So we follow Ignacio.
I'm Ignacio.
God be with you, Ignacio.
A humble cook at a monastery orphanage. He dreams of becoming a luchador, even though wrestling is strictly forbidden by the church. By day, he cooks bland food for the orphans, and by night, he dons a mask and steps into the ring as Nacho Libre. He makes gruel for orphans, mops floors, and longs for a life with more flair.
I will buy the orphans a big bus to go on field trips to parks and places like that.
When he discovers the world of Lucha Libre, he teams up with Esqueleto,
Mucho, take it easy. I need your help.
a homeless, lanky, skeptical street thief.
Aren't you tired of getting dirt kicked in your face? I am.
and together they become a comedic underdog duo, constantly getting beat up but slowly gaining a following. All the while, Ignacio is wrestling with more than just other masked men.
He's caught between duty and desire, what the church tells him he should be and what his heart says he must be.
There's something beautifully existential about Nacho's journey. He doesn't just want fame or money, he wants significance. He wants to matter. And more importantly, he wants to be authentic.
In a world that tells him to be silent, humble, invisible, he wants to shine.
He says, maybe I'm not meant for these duties.
It's time for me to get a better duty.
It sounds funny, but it's profoundly real. Nacho's internal conflict is ancient. Do I obey the path laid before me?
Or do I carve my own?
It's the tension between expectation and authenticity. So many men live lives defined by doing.
Their actions, their career, their performance, their roles. But Nacho's story is about the being beneath the doing.
It invites us to consider the flip side. Who are you when no one's watching? And what makes you feel alive? What do you yearn for when you're not being told what you should want? The film suggests that masculinity isn't about toughness or domination. It's about vulnerability, faith, perseverance, and love.
Nacho isn't just strong because he wins fights. In fact, he loses most of them. He's strong because he gets back up and dares to dream.
In this way, Nacho Libre isn't just a slapstick comedy. It's a film about being versus doing, about stepping into the ring of life, even when you're underqualified, underappreciated, and completely out of your league.
But is it always a sin to fight?
No. If you fight for something noble, or for someone who needs your help, only then will God bless you in battle.
It's about not settling. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be brave enough to try.
Nacho isn't chasing wealth. He's not chasing women. He's chasing meaning. And that journey takes courage. It takes discomfort. It takes leaping from the top rope of fear and hoping that your ego powers kick in before you hit the mat. The world tells us to play it safe.
And Nacho tells us to taste the glory. And whether you succeed or not, the mere act of trying, that's the true glory.
And despite constantly doubting himself,
I want to be a great fighter, but I can't even beat a couple of guys in the street.
or being afraid, or being exposed,
He is not a man of God.
he still gets in the ring, over and over, not because he's fearless, but because he knows fear is part of faith.
They need you, Nacho.
We all want the shortcuts in life, the golden egg, but Nacho Libre teaches us that real strength is already inside us. The journey is the power, the climb, the failure, the moment you lace up your boots when fear tells you to sit down.
It's about listening to the whisper of your purpose, even when the world is trying to shout over it.
Forget the sidelines and get in the ring. Despite it all, Nacho overcomes. He wins his final fight against Ramses. Through his diligence, perseverance, and will to save those he loves, he manages to return home victorious and bring home money to build a better life for the kids in the orphanage. He doesn't buy himself fancy clothes or a fancy car. We do see he gets the children food, new clothing, and a school bus to take them new places. And it's in this moment we see the quality and type of man he is.
One that puts others before himself in order to cultivate a better quality of life for those that he loves.
He didn't just win a wrestling match, he wins something much bigger, clarity. And he earns the respect of the children, the church, his friends, and most importantly, himself. He no longer hides who he is. He doesn't need to choose between his passion and his faith.
He's found a way to unify them.
And that's the real takeaway. You don't need to choose between being useful and being joyful.
You can be both. You don't need permission to dream. You are allowed to want more, and you are allowed to taste the glory.
And as he takes the children towards the pyramids, we see him be his authentic self one last time. One last awkward smile before the frame cuts to credits. A man unchained. Nacho Libre didn't win Oscars. It wasn't a massive box office smash, but over time, it became something even more rare.
A cultural artifact. A shared language of weirdness.
The memes
Do
alone.
you not realize I have had diarrhea since Easter's?
Was stinky.
They've become part of our internet culture.
Read some mix?
Quoted, gift, TikTok, it's beloved.
I didn't know while we were making Nacho that there was gonna be memeable moments.
It's beloved, not because it was marketed to be, but because it was real, weird, and sincere.
But beyond the memes, Nacho Libre carved a weirdly important place in pulp culture.
Those eggs were a lie, Steven. A lie!
It gave Jack Black one of his most iconic roles. It influenced future underdog comedies. And it proved that a film can both be funny and philosophical, ridiculous yet reverent.
Go away! Read some books!
It's the rare comedy that sticks, not just because it made us laugh, but because it meant something.
So maybe the question isn't who is Nacho Libre?
Maybe a better question is, who are you when the mask comes off?
You don't need six-pack abs or golden tights to be a hero. You just need heart. And Nacho, he's all heart.
You got something none of these guys have.
If this film made you laugh, cry, or feel something, I would love to hear your deeper thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's celebrate the weird, powerful magic of film together. Thanks for watching, and make fun choices. Not gonna tell on me, are you? No. Hell yeah. Listen, I'm out here in spandex, bro. I'm already suffering.